Is Al Iaquinta. We're just going to take a quick look at some of his takedowns here. Not all of his takedowns, because for me, I like to kind of study what I might be able to emulate and imitate and put into practice in my own game. So it's not much use for me to study the super high level takedowns that Khabib does, where he shoots like low singles on people in an MMA fight. No matter how much I practice, it would take me years and years and years just to get good at those techniques. And, you know, um, it would be kind of a waste of time for me to do that. I'll never be as good as he can be at those. But there are some things I think that you can imitate Habib, and it doesn't take much practice or implementation. There's like certain principles that he follows, um, that you can implement in your game, and you can see a pretty good difference, a pretty good improvement, and I believe, anyways. So here he throws. Let's see here. He starts with a jab, so he throws a real jab here, just shy of Al's forehead. I think it maybe just touches just a little bit. Pumps out a feint, pumps out another feint mid down to the body, and then drops down for a shot on the leg. So Al, again, Habib recognizes that Al is just standing in one spot. Habib very rarely takes a bad shot. He usually makes sure he sets it up pretty good. So when he sees that Al is just sitting there looking to counter, and you see how Al's left fist is clenched and his right hand is opened, that seems to indicate that Al is looking to counter with his left hand, because if you're going to throw with your left hand, you want to make sure that your left foot is planted. Typically, anyways, right? So if you're going to throw with your right hand, you generate the power by pivoting off of your right foot, and if you're going to throw with your left hand, you'll generate power by pivoting with your left foot. So Al has his left fist closed. It seems to indicate that he's looking to counter with that left hand. I think Habib sees that and then shoots on that same side, because if he's going to pivot with that leg, then that means that that leg is going to be planted, and if that leg's going to be planted, it's a perfect leg to shoot a takedown on. So Habib always sets his he always, what's the way I want to phrase this? He always makes sure that he's shooting on a leg in a fashion that is going to result in a high probability of him getting a clinch on that leg or that part of the body that he's shooting on. He always times it very, very, very well. So he dives in. One thing he does that a lot of people say is, kind of unorthodox, but all traditional wrestlers do outside of MMA fights, but not always inside MMA fights, is he lets that left knee touch the ground here. He brings that. So actually, both of his knees are down in this particular situation, and he's got a tight grip on Al's left leg now, and he drives Al to the fence. That's a key for a lot of Habib's takedowns, is once he gets a good, strong grip on a part of your body, whether it's upper body clinch, clinch on your leg, whatever it is, he, more often than not, will shoot once you're close to the fence and drive you to the fence to finish the shot. Here we see that happening with Al. Al's defending pretty well. You see that left hand of Habib come up to Al's right thigh. It looks like Habib is thinking about connecting his hands behind Al's hips for a double leg. Al does a good job of defending, though. He's got a wide base. That leg is pressed up against the fence, which does not allow Habib to squeeze his left hand back behind that leg. So because he's got a wide base and he's close to the fence, he's got an underhook and an overhook. He's in good defensive position here, Al Iaquinta is. It's interesting what Habib does here. So when the double leg does not present itself to him, what he does is he connects his hands here and then steps in, raises his head up to ear to chest, is what some people might call. So raises his head up. He's in good position here, and loads Al up on his hips, slides Al up his thigh. And then from here, once he's got Al's weight lifted up and Al standing on his the tip of his toes on his right foot, he sweeps his leg across and chops Al down, and then drives Al to the ground. Another thing that Habib does that is a little bit unconventional is a lot of people will say don't have your elbows on the outside of your opponent's hips because that opens you up to submissions. But Khabib is so confident in his grappling that a lot of times he'll leave his arms on the outside. So you see right now that both of his arms are on the outside of Al's body, on the outside of Al's hips. And he'll do that kind of on purpose. So here we'll notice that Khabib, I want to make this mostly about his takedowns, but I'm going to point a few things out about his grappling because to break down his grappling would take hours and hours and hours. But so Khabib carries or lifts or pushes, however you want to call it, crawls to the fence with Al Iaquinta, puts Al's neck at a weird angle, kind of puts a little bit of a kink in between the crown of his head and his shoulder blades with that 90-degree angle there with the fence. It's a beautiful tactic. It's great for ground and pound, and you can put a lot of pressure on somebody's spine, that portion of their spine, by doing that. Again, leaving his hands, his elbows on the outside of Al's hips and putting pressure on Al's spine by bringing him up to that corner of the cage. What he's doing here is trying to encourage Al to open up his guard to either attempt a submission or to alleviate pressure on that neck that Khabib is posturing into. So Khabib does that again. That left forearm against the jawline of Al Iaquinta is just to add extra pressure on the spine there. And but Al does a good job of not opening up his guard until Khabib gets this hand free. Where's that at? He gets his hand free right here, and as soon as he frees that hand, as soon as there's a threat of punches being rained down, Al opens up his guard because now the priority is mitigating damage and moving his hips as quickly as possible to try to get away from that free hand that Khabib can use to start punching with. Something happens here, I noticed. I think he might have scratched Khabib's eye because Khabib kind of makes a weird face and then touches his eye for a second and then goes right back to punching. I think Al might have pissed him off a little bit by scratching his eye with his glove or something. I don't know. But anyways, Khabib, again, keeping that pressure. He almost gets rolled here. He's able to base out and kind of keep his balance. And then he gets that left knee out and then continues to dominate on the ground. Again, I just want to focus on the takedowns here mostly. This insane pressure from Khabib, you see how he's punching and kicking and just going forward with reckless abandon. And then as soon as Al sets down that lead leg, as soon as he plants that lead leg to throw that counter jab right there, again, the timing on Khabib's takedowns is brilliant. As soon as he plants to shoot, that's when Khabib ducks down and now starts driving Al to the fence. But up until that point, he was just throwing with reckless abandon, getting Al to back up, get closer to the fence, punches, kicks, whatever. And then once he's close to the fence and Al plants to counter, and that's when Khabib drops down and head in the chest and driving him to the fence. Now again, he's got him to the fence. It looks like he's thinking about trying to attempt some variation of a double leg here, but again, he does the exact same thing because Al defends the exact same way. So, excuse me. So he connects his hand on the single leg, pulls up, and Al is able to actually slip out of this one here. But the setup for the takedown was the exact same. Al's able to shove off and get his knee to the inside of the hip, and once he frees the leg from Khabib's grip and gets the knee to the inside, and he's able to use that shin to kind of shove off, create some space, and get some distance and shuffle out of there. But again, the setup was the exact same. Insane aggression and pressure, and then as soon as Al tries to counter back, as soon as his opponent tries to counter back, then he times his shot, drives him to the fence, goes for the double first, then switches to the single, and then goes for the lift on the single. But then, of course, like I said, Al was able to get out of that one. And then again, the same setup, extreme pressure. So throwing these flying knees, wild punches. Well, I shouldn't say wild, but flying knee punches, whatever you want to call it. Lots of really super aggressive strikes. And then he drops down to the hip, tries to clinch. The clinch doesn't work. Goes to the upper body. Not the clinch doesn't work. He drops down to the hips. Al's able to defend pretty well with that overhook on the left-hand side, pulls him up. Khabib gets the upper body clinch, connects his hand in an over or under position, so he doesn't even get double underhooks or double over, which is, impressive. Not super you don't see this type of a thing very often where somebody goes from an over-under position for a takedown. And then wraps his right leg back behind, pulls out, and then I like how he finishes. He slams Al straight down. So look at the finishing position here of Khabib Nurmagomedov. If you look, his legs stayed in the same spot, and he used his upper body strength to slam Al down in the exactly below his hips. So what you'll see a lot of guys do is once they kind of reach this point here, where they have off balanced their opponent and the trip is imminent, they will kind of like pivot off of their left leg and go down with their opponent, maintaining that clinch. And sometimes it creates space for a roll. He just squeezes and drops him straight down, utilizing a great amount of core strength here. And then from there, he takes the back and is again dominant in Khabib style fashion. Or, that's 2 words. In Khabib fashion, I guess you could say. But anyway, so I just want to look at the takedowns from this one fight. Khabib is one of the guys, as far as takedowns go, Khabib and George St. Pierre are 2 of the guys that I love studying for takedowns. The way they set them up and how they finish, and more importantly, the tactics that they use are just brilliant, especially against Iaquinta, who is a collegiate level wrestler. You can really see that these tactics are effective against people even at the highest levels. So I just want to take a quick look at just the successful takedowns from this fight, and not just the successful takedowns, but specifically the ones that that I think I could probably these takedowns are more my style, my speed. Like I'll never shoot a low single in an MMA fight. So I just wanted to look at the ones that I thought might translate to my game, because making these videos is as much as I make them for other people to learn, I also make them as a way to steady fighters that I'd like to implement in my game as well. So hopefully this was useful, enjoyable, or informative. And if none of the above, then please feel free to comment below how I could make it so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.